While Hollywood seems to be in the early stages of finally dumping this woke trend from hell, with things like the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer and the terrible but largely identity politics-free Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, it seems that the BBC, which doesn't have to make a profit because if you live in the UK and want to watch TV, it already gets your money, have decided to let Whittaker the Hateful and Chibs the Idiot shoot their mouths off again. I guess because there is no interest or excitement about this upcoming dumpster fire, they had to get attention somehow, and when your product is crap, what better way of getting attention than by drumming up some controversy? And these two are experts at that.
Jodie Whittaker, I don't understand what's politically correct about saying there is still racism within our current society.
Well, this should be interesting.
As the Time Lord returns, Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall discuss the pressures of playing the Doctor and the return of the Cybermen.
And here we go.
Before Whittaker the Hateful's first series of Doctor Who last year, she was anxious.
Somehow I doubt that, seeing as she didn't even bother watching older episodes to prepare, and I doubt her ego would allow her to be anxious. Or maybe she was secretly aware that she had no idea of what the hell she was doing, because that definitely came across on screen.
Upon the announcement that she would take up the mantle,
some would say steal, but that's a whole different story,
from Peter Capaldi to become the first female Doctor,
which they reminded us of at every opportunity, because that's all they have. Gender isn't everything. First and foremost, you need to demonstrate that you don't suck. Perhaps you shouldn't have attacked the fans or written off the entire classic series as doing little more than celebrating the white male gaze. Actually, never mind. You meant to do that.
Excitement.
Only from a handful of, quote, new fans. The rest of us watched in horror and
debate.
You didn't debate.
Some argued that the idea of a woman playing a time-traveling alien with two hearts was simply too far-fetched.
No, they didn't. They wondered why this particular woman was chosen to play the Doctor. But one need not investigate too far to find out why.
Others wondered what effect the casting would have on the show.
Complete devastation, that's what.
Nobody wants a TARDIS full of bras, wrote one online commenter.
How far did you have to dig to get that line? And the impact of this particular casting, because of the person, not the gender, was the total destruction of the now 56-year-old franchise. Furthermore, saying that you want a character that has always been male to stay male is not sexist. It's stating a preference.
The pressure is, if people hate this choice,
which we did,
it doesn't just have a knock-on on my casting,
Whittaker the Hateful says, and here comes that ego.
It's going to be, see, women can't do it.
No, we didn't say that. We said you can't do it.
And that felt very unfair.
Life is unfair, Jodie.
No one was saying to new showrunner Chibs the Idiot, you are representing loads of people.
Actually, we did. This Muppet was handed this time-honored franchise and somehow managed to destroy it in just 11 episodes.
I was somehow representing all women ever in playing this part.
Who said that, Jodie? I do believe that's how you perceived it. Because, well, it's you. Most of us would argue that you didn't represent all women because most women are not hateful, vengeful, sexist, racist. Oh yes, I use those terms, but not in the way you would use them, as we shall see.
All of it was nonsense.
Yes, most of what comes out of her mouth is nonsense.
And Whittaker's first run was a welcome regeneration for the show.
No, it wasn't!
As she fast embodied everything the Doctor should be.
I guess we're in opposite land now.
Alien, yet human.
She was neither of these.
Tough, but kind.
Kind unless you're a straight white male or a single father, then the hackles come out.
Impossibly smart, but ridiculously silly.
That's how you describe that performance?
The second series opens on New Year's Day, and the mood is different.
Yeah, nobody cares.
I feel like I can enjoy it a bit more.
Turned up the hate a bit, did ya?
The 37-year-old says, sitting next to Chibs the Idiot in a London hotel. She may feel more relaxed, but she often talks so fast it feels like her words are tumbling down the stairs.
Just like this show is.
Chibs the Idiot, 49 on the other hand, whom Whittaker first met through his ITV drama Broadchurch, and then he proceeded to give her this job, partially out of laziness and partially because she fit his agenda perfectly, is an infectiously cheery man in a turquoise blazer.
Oh, he sure is jolly.
He offers me a biscuit.
What, are you a dog?
And says, the big difference is people now know our version of the show.
Shut up, Chibs. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out what your version of the show, formerly known as Doctor Who, now known as shit is,
which gives us a chance to evolve.
What you call evolution, we call an epic face
faceplant. The evolution is a return to the modern show's roots. There you have it, folks. This is Modern Who, because screw that patriarchal series known as Classic Who. Current year, yo. Whittaker the Hateful and Chibs the Idiot's first series was notable. At least you got that right. For being an accessible string of relatively self-contained stories, also known as crap, which in a bold move, another word for current year lecturing shit, featured no returning monsters. But we did get that tooth monster, all of which has changed. After being told to do so by the BBC, that must hurt, eh, Chibs? Being put in your place by the woke corporation that you work for. The new series opening episode, Spyfall, is a huge James Bond-style romp. I believe you mean a desperate attempt to rip off James Bond, and seeing that franchise is about to drink the woke Kool-Aid just as others seem to be running in the opposite direction only makes sense. That Chibnall has described as the show's most ambitious, most action-packed, keep dreaming, Chibs, yet, and sets up an arc that will run all series. I'm going to guess it has something to do with white man evil. As for monsters, following the forced return of the Daleks in 2019's New Year's Day special Resolution, this year we'll see the Doctor come face to face with the Jadoon and classic foes the Cybermen. All surely to be disgraced, and we'll never see them in quite the same way again. It was always the plan to bring those monsters back, explains Chibs the Idiot. Sure it was, Chibs. In the first season, I wanted to make sure that people who came into the show had their own set of monsters. Because screw anybody that was a fan before your reign of crap. Chibs. Tim Shaw, i.e. Tooth Monster, Whittaker cuts in. He was last year's biggest villain, an alien with a face covered in teeth. But now it's about taking those new people who are on board and going, look at everything we've got in the toy box. I guess all you can focus on now are those new, quote, fans, because most of Doctor Who before your time fandom has run away screaming. And these people you call new fans are not really science fiction fans, are they? Unless it pushes their own ideologies or allows them to get attention like 2-year-olds. But perhaps the most profound difference is how the show will approach the protagonist herself. We are waiting with bated breath. Chibnall first introduced the Doctor almost as if she was an entirely new character. I'll agree with that. Divorced from her past mythology. This was kind of like the show going through a divorce, wasn't it? A nasty, nasty divorce. But now her companions, Wooden Plank Yaz, Mandeep Gill, I really don't look like I actually want to be here, Ryan, Tozen Cole, and God help me, Graham Bradley Walsh, are beginning to ask questions. Considering Chibs forgot to write that part in last year, it only makes sense. But don't worry, I'd say they'll still be giving her unconditional praise. Their discovery of who she is forms the backbone of the series, says Chibs the Idiot. She didn't use the words Time Lord or Gallifrey. She does this year. Does Whittaker or your new, quote, fans even know what those mean? The beauty of the Doctor as a role is that it allows actors to channel their own personality. I think Whittaker the Hateful may have taken that a bit too literally. Whittaker's Doctor crackles with wit. That's a good one. Warmth. Were we watching the same show? And righteous fury. She is very self-righteous, isn't she? All enhanced by her no-nonsense Yorkshire accent. Because, in her own words, using a traditional English accent was too hard. Whittaker grew up in Huddersfield, though now lives in London with her husband and their daughter, who was born in 2015. Nobody cares! A common criticism of Doctor Who last year was that her Doctor was hamstrung by scripts that portrayed her as passive and insecure. It did come across as a bit insecure because you could tell that when she wasn't spewing hate, she had no idea what the hell she was doing. But passive? Good lord! Are we going to see a more decisive Doctor this year? One who is more sure of herself? You mean the ego is going to get even bigger? I don't know if it was indecisiveness. Shut up, Whittaker. You knew exactly what you were doing. I thought I saw it slightly differently. That's true. I feel that my Doctor has the ability to change her mind and ask for help. Did she? I thought she just lectured. Also, the way Chibs writes it, a lot of my thought processes are spoken out loud. That's because he can't write nuance, and you can't portray nuance. If you just heard the conclusion and not the inner monologue, you'd have a decisive Doctor. Good lord! One of the less valid. And here we go. But most persistent criticisms, well, where there's smoke, there must be fire, of the series was that thanks to its female lead, yes, I forgot, nobody is allowed to criticize Whittaker the Hateful, its diverse TARDIS team, and poor Graham, and don't forget about the discriminatory diversity and inclusion strategy, and its engagement with topics such as the partition of India, a subject that the author barely seemed to understand, and the American Civil Rights Movement, that episode that turned historical racism against African Americans into modern-day racism against white people, both written by the show's first ever BAME writers. Here's a wacky idea. Why not focus on the ability of the writer and not his or her racial demographic to determine whether they are a fit or not? Actually, how silly of me. Talent means nothing in current year. Doctor Who is now too politically correct. An understatement if ever I heard one. I ask how they feel about this backlash. Whittaker lets out a bitter laugh. At least she's keeping true to her character. What's interesting to me, she says, is we presented an SJW lecture session, did an episode about Rosa Parks, and it highlighted Rosa Parks' heroic moment in history. What you mean is you completely disrespected the historical significance of this event, but it also highlighted that modern society is still suffering from a lack of progress in some people's attitudes towards different people. You mean like your attitude towards white men? She pauses for a moment and raises her hands in a shrug. Oh, I'm picturing it now. I just don't understand what's politically correct about saying there is still racism within our current society. I just don't understand. Well then, Jodie, let me add some clarification here. Nobody is denying that racism is still a thing, but you seem to think that perpetuating your own form of racism is going to resolve these issues. Moreover, when the group you are openly racist and sexist against makes up the majority of the demographic that has traditionally been Doctor Who fans, then what the hell kind of response do you think you're going to get? You and Chibs spent an entire series throwing hateful insults towards this group, and the best you could do is shrug your shoulders. What a wonderful human you are. Fiction is supposed to be entertaining, a way of escaping the drudgery of daily life, but you two think that smacking your primary audience in the face repeatedly with a 2x4 is a good idea, and then seem completely clueless as to why they might be a bit angry about this. The Doctor and the show are beacons of compassion and empathy, adds Chibs the idiot, seemingly oblivious, or perhaps not, that he is doing the exact opposite of this. That has always been true. We haven't done anything that Doctor Who hasn't done in the past. No, you moron! The show didn't take potshots at its main fan base until this era from hell, nor did it ever single out an entire demographic because of the way they were born. I don't think Doctor Who has changed. I think the world has changed. It sure has, you moron, and not for the better. Both Chibnall and Whittaker agree that working on the show is, for reasons both good and bad, a job like no other. Chibnall says that before taking on the role, he was told by former showrunner Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat to remember to enjoy it. Don't worry, I'm sure they enjoy spewing hate. You have to be quite mindful about it because there is so much to do. It's like a television series with 3 other television series on top. It's hard because you don't have the ability to run it. Whittaker the Hateful, meanwhile, was warned by former doctors David Tennant and Matt Smith about the quantity and complexity of the script. Please don't bring their names into this. The line learning is really hard. I probably make guest artists feel incredibly confident because they come in and I'm like, what's my line? That's because you suck at what you do. The most famous piece of advice from any doctor came from Patrick Troughton, who advised against staying in the role for more than 3 years. This is year 2 for Whittaker. Has she considered a life beyond Who? I absolutely want to come back for another season, she says. And you are, replies Chibs the idiot. Work on the new series has already begun, and the 5 people that will still be watching sure are excited. And one last time, shut up, Chibs. Okay, she says, laughing. I'm not done. It is hard, and I'm a bit grumpy. I think you're like that a lot. At 4 o'clock in the morning, when it's dark in Cardiff, and we're on some hill, and I'm like, oh God. But I genuinely love it. It's a moment in life that lasts forever because I'll always be the Doctor. No matter what, I'm always in that family. And that is extraordinary. The family, as you call it, really doesn't like you, Jodie. And we decide to disown you. And that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe. And check your subscription and notification status because YouTube is being shady on these things lately. And follow me on Twitter. And as always, everyone, thank you for watching and have a great day.